Did you know 70% of American marriages hide a dark secret? While wives conceal the truth, husbands fake business trips to escape. Both sides playing a dangerous game they think no one will discover. But what happens when the lies finally catch up? What happens when an entire generation builds relationships on calculated silence? When the default setting is deception, dressed as keeping the peace? What I'm about to show you will change how you see every couple you know, including yourself. Join us as we unfold every stories, every lessons. Hit the subscribe button. I arrived at Joseph's house with 2 suitcases and a heart full of hope. My son had called me in a panic. Emma had given birth to twins 8 weeks early, and his Spain work trip couldn't be postponed. 60 days, he'd said. Just 60 days and he'd be back. But when I walked through that door, it was chaos I found. Baby equipment everywhere. 2 bassinets, mountains of diapers, bottles stacked on every surface. And my son Joseph, phone pressed to his ear while stuffing clothes into a carry-on bag like his life depended on it. "Mom, I can't thank you enough," he said, guilt written across his tired face. The twins came early, Emma's completely overwhelmed, and this Spain contract, it was scheduled months ago. If I don't go, I stopped him right there, set down my bags and touched his arm. "Joseph, stop. You go. I raised you, didn't I? 2 babies will be nothing." He looked at me with such relief. 60 days, that's all. I'll video call every chance I get. From upstairs, Emma's voice drifted down. Weak, drained. "Joseph, is your mother here?" We exchanged a look. Joseph called up that I'd just arrived, but there was no response. Just silence. "Go on," I told him. "I'll introduce myself properly. You'll miss your flight." He hugged me tight, grabbed his bag, and rushed out the door. I stood alone in that quiet house, listening. Then I heard it. A baby crying upstairs. Then another joined in, their little voices filling the space. I smiled, rolled up my sleeves, and headed for the stairs. I was ready to be useful, ready to help. I had no idea what I was walking into. 3 days later, I learned that Emma didn't want a grandmother around at all. I'd been trying. Lord knows I'd been trying. Folding baby clothes, preparing bottles, offering to take the night shift. But Emma moved through the house like a ghost, pale and silent, her blonde hair hanging limp around a face that never smiled. That evening, I approached the nursery with a stack of clean onesies, reached for the handle. "Don't!" I jumped. Emma stood at the end of the hallway, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. She was so thin, too thin for someone who'd just given birth. "Oh, Emma dear, I was just going to—" "I have it handled, of course, but I thought I could help with the night feeding, or—" She moved past me, blocking the door with her body. "I have my own routine. Babies need consistency." She slipped inside, and I heard the lock there in that hallway, arms full of tiny clothes, feeling more alone than I had in years. By day 15, I still hadn't held my grandchildren, hadn't even seen them properly, just glimpses through a crack. One morning in the kitchen, I tried again. "Emma, let me get them. You need rest." "No. I've been here 2 weeks and I haven't even held—" She looked up from her phone, something cold flashing in her eyes. "They're my children, Margaret." The way she said my name, like it tasted bad in her mouth. "I know that, sweetheart. I just want to help." "Then stay out of the way." That's when my hands started shaking. Just a little tremor, stress, I told myself. But it was the first sign that something in my body was going wrong. By day 28, I couldn't sleep. I'd lie in bed at 2 in the morning listening to Emma moving around downstairs. Always moving, never sleeping. It wasn't natural. That night, I got up and went down to find her. She was in the kitchen washing bottles. The kitchen was spotless, unnaturally clean. "You should be sleeping," I told her. "Can't." I moved beside her at the sink. "Let me finish these. You go up and—" "I don't need you to mother me." The words cut. "That's not what I'm trying to—" She turned off the water and faced me. You know what would help? If you cooked dinner tomorrow. Just for yourself. I'll handle mine. I blinked, surprised by the request. Oh, of course. Whatever you prefer. Good, she said, and walked out, leaving me alone with her dishes. That's when it started. Me cooking my own meals, eating alone while Emma ate separately, like we were strangers living in the same house, like she couldn't bear to share a table with me. Day 45. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong with me. I sat at the kitchen table with a bowl of soup, but my hand trembled so badly I could barely lift the spoon. My head felt full of cotton, dizzy, confused. Emma entered with her own plate, didn't sit down. I've been feeling off, dizzy. You're old, it happens. I'm 62, exactly. I tried to eat, but my stomach turned. I pushed the bowl away. Emma, have I done something to offend you? Because if I have, you haven't done anything. Then why won't you let me near the babies? Why won't you let me help? She sat down slowly, looked at me with eyes that held secrets I couldn't read. Because you'll make it worse. She left, and I sat there, soup getting cold, wondering what she meant. What could I possibly make worse?
This is the 50th day. I found the pill bottles in the trash. I was taking out the garbage that morning, moving slower than usual, weaker. When I lifted the bin lid, I saw them. Prescription bottles with the labels torn off. I could make out partial words: Zigzapum, Zapine, my postpartum vitamins. Emma's voice came from behind me. I spun around. She stood in the doorway, watching me. Are you going through my trash now? Those aren't vitamins, Emma. Those are... No, maybe you should mind your business. She went back inside, leaving me staring at those bottles. A knot formed in my stomach. Something was very, very wrong.
On my 56th, I could barely get out of bed. The shaking was constant now, sweating despite the cool air. I reached for my phone with trembling hands and called Joseph. It rang and rang. Voicemail. Joseph, sweetheart, I need you to call me back. Something's wrong. I feel very... The door opened. Emma, who are you calling? Joseph, I need to speak to my son. He's in meetings, time difference. You'll just worry him. She took the phone from my hand, just plucked it away like I was a child. Emma, I think I need a doctor. You need rest. I'll make you some tea. She left with my phone. I tried to protest, but I didn't have the strength. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was how it ended. Alone in my daughter-in-law's house, too weak to even call for help.
The next morning, day 57, I heard the shower running. Emma was in the bathroom. The nursery door was unlocked. I had to see them. I had to know my grandbabies were okay. I pushed open the door, moving slowly, using the wall for support. 2 cribs. I approached them, and there they were, 2 sleeping babies. They looked healthy, peaceful, but something was wrong. The room smelled medicinal, chemical, not like a baby's room should smell. I noticed the changing table had a locked drawer, a small padlock. I tugged at it, whispering, "What are you hiding? What are you doing?" I spun around. Emma stood in the doorway, dripping wet, wrapped in a towel. Her face was terrifyingly calm. "Get out." I just wanted to see them. Get out! I stumbled past her into the hallway, my heart pounding.
That evening, Emma brought my dinner. Chicken, rice, vegetables. Set it in front of me without saying a word. Then she looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "This is your last meal here." I stared up at her. "What?" "Eat." She walked away and I sat there, staring at the plate. Every instinct screamed not to touch it, but I was so weak, so hungry. I picked up the fork. My hand shook. I took a bite. Something fell into my lap, my phone, wrapped in a napkin.
I unlocked it under the table, my heart racing. Dozens of missed calls from Joseph. Text messages that made me feel like the ground was dropping out from under me. Mom, why aren't you picking up? Emma says you left 3 days ago? Where'd you go? Please call me. I'm worried. Mom, answer your phone. Emma had told him I left. She'd been lying to him, lying to both of us. I tried to type a response, but my vision blurred. The phone slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my room. It was dark. I didn't remember coming upstairs. My phone was gone again. The house was silent. Completely silent. No baby sounds. No Emma moving around. Nothing. Just silence. I tried to sit up, but the room spun violently. I fell back against the pillows. Then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The house was holding its breath. I forced my eyes open the next morning. Day 60. Sunlight streamed through the window, and for the first time in weeks, my head felt clear. The fog had lifted. I sat up, listened. Still no baby sounds. Terror gripped me. I stumbled into the hallway. Emma? Emma! No answer. The nursery door stood open. I pushed it wider, and my heart stopped. Empty. Completely empty. No cribs, no changing table, no baby clothes. Just marks on the carpet where furniture used to be. I backed out of the room, my breath coming in gasps. I backed out and searched the house frantically. Living room, no baby equipment. Kitchen, no bottles. Bathroom, no baby products. Everything was gone. Where are they? I whispered to myself, panic rising. Where are the babies? I heard movement downstairs in the kitchen. Emma was packing dishes into boxes, still in her robe. Calm. Too calm. Where are my grandbabies? It was like the twins had never existed at all. She didn't look up. They're gone. Gone where? What did you do? She finally looked at me. I didn't do anything. They died, Marguerite, 3 weeks ago. Both of them. Same night. Sid's. I grabbed the counter to keep from falling. No, I heard them crying. I heard them. That was a recording on a loop. I needed you to believe they were alive. Why? Why would you? She stood up. Because if Joseph knew, he'd come home. He'd lose the span contract. We'd lose everything. The house, his career, everything we've worked for. I just needed 60 days. Just 60 days. You're insane. No, I'm practical. My mind raced back to those pill bottles. The pills! You are poisoning me! Emma shook her head. You had a stroke, Margaret. Day 30. Right here in this kitchen. I found you on the floor. The words hit me like a slap. Images flickered through my mind. Fragmented, confused, falling, pain. Emma's face above me. The pills were your medication. Blood thinners, anti-seizure. But you kept forgetting you took them. You'd take them twice, 3 times. That's why you felt sick. That's why you couldn't remember things. You were helping me? I was trying to keep you alive and keep you quiet. If you'd told Joseph about the stroke, he'd have come home. If you'd told him anything, he'd have come home, and we'd lose everything. I sank into a chair, my whole world crumbling. My grandbabies? They're buried in Greenwood Cemetery, plot 447. I visit them every Tuesday. The silence that followed felt like drowning. Now, let's reflect back a bit. I didn't know what happened on day 23. Not until much later. But I'll tell you now, because understanding Emma means understanding that night. It was 2:47 a.m., Emma did a feeding check like she did every 3 hours, obsessively punctual, obsessively controlled. She opened the nursery door and immediately knew something was wrong. The silence. Not the peaceful quiet of sleeping babies, but the heavy, terrible silence of absence. She approached the first crib, her daughter, Charlotte, named after Emma's grandmother, the only woman in her family who'd believed in her. Cold. The baby's skin was cold. Emma picked her up anyway, held her, shook her gently, then harder. Wake up, Charlotte, wake up. Nothing. She put Charlotte down and ran to the second crib. Her son, James, named after Joseph's father, also cold, also silent, also gone.
Both of them, same night. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Statistically rare for twins, but possible. Nobody's fault. Just a terrible, random tragedy that destroys families every day. Emma stood between those two cribs for 7 minutes. She told me this later. 7 minutes where her mind raced through every possible reality, every possible choice. Call 911? Call Joseph? Scream? Cry? Fall apart? But then another thought crept in. Quiet at first, then louder. A thought that would become the foundation of everything that followed. If Joseph finds out, he'll come home. She walked to her laptop, pulled up their bank accounts. Joseph's May contract, $480,000 over 60 days. Already $46,000 deposited. They were behind on the mortgage. Credit cards maxed out. Her mother had been right. They weren't ready for children, not financially. If Joseph came home now, the contract would be voided. They'd lose everything. The house, their future, everything they'd sacrificed for. Emma sat with her dead babies for 3 hours doing calculations. Then she picked up her phone and called her younger brother Marcus. He worked at a mortuary. He'd know what to do.
Marcus, I need help. The babies, they're gone. Both of them. But Joseph is in Spain and I can't tell him like this. Not over the phone. Not when he's so far away. Can you help me arrange something? Just temporary. Just until he gets home. Marcus, thinking his sister was in shock, thinking she wanted to spare her husband the horror of an international call with that kind of news, agreed. He came over at 4 a.m., helped her wrap the tiny bodies, arranged quiet burial in the family plot that same morning, before dawn. No death certificates filed yet. He'd handle the paperwork later, once Emma was ready. He thought he was helping his grieving sister. He had no idea she planned to hide the deaths for 2 months. By 7 a.m., the cribs were empty, the nursery was scrubbed with industrial cleaner, eliminating all traces of what happened. Emma set up a speaker system connected to her phone, downloaded recordings of baby sounds, crying, cooing, fussing. And when I woke up that morning, made breakfast, and asked how the babies slept, Emma looked me straight in the eye and said, "They were up every 2 hours. It was a rough night." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I had no idea I was living in a house with a woman who just buried her children in secret and decided that money mattered more than truth. Or at least, that's what I thought at the time, that Emma was simply cold, calculating, monstrous. I was wrong. The truth was so much worse and so much more heartbreaking. For the next week, Emma became an architect of deception. The baby sounds played on the loop from the locked nursery, crying at appropriate intervals, cooing sounds during playtime. She'd even recorded herself singing lullabies, playing them back so I'd hear her soothing them. "I've got it." Her voice was strained but firm. "Please, Margaret, I need you to respect my boundaries."
I stepped back, retreated, let her handle it. I was enabling her lie without even knowing it existed. But here's what I didn't know Emma was doing during those days. Every night, after I went to bed, she'd drive to Greenwood Cemetery, plot 447. She'd sit between two tiny graves with no headstones yet and talk to her dead children. "I'm doing this for you," she'd whisper, "so you'll have a beautiful memorial, so your names will mean something, so your father won't lose everything trying to grieve you. I'm being practical. I'm being smart. I'm being... She could never finish that sentence, because deep down, even she didn't believe her own justifications. The truth was simpler and more terrible. Emma kept me away from those babies not to protect them, but to protect herself. You see, Emma had a secret she'd never told anyone. Not Joseph, not her mother, not even herself, really. Until those babies were born. She didn't feel anything when she held them. No rush of love, no maternal instinct, no overwhelming need to protect, just obligation, duty, the performance of motherhood without the feeling of it. Postpartum depression? Attachment issues? Probably. But Emma couldn't admit that, couldn't ask for help, because asking for help meant admitting she was failing. And if there was one thing Emma Carter Richardson absolutely could not do, it was fail. Her mother's voice played on a loop in her head. "You're too young, too selfish. You'll be a terrible mother." So Emma pushed me away, not because she was territorial, but because she was terrified I'd see the emptiness in her eyes when she looked at Charlotte and James. Terrified I'd realize she was forcing every smile, manufacturing every coo, performing motherhood like a role in a play she never auditioned for. And when they died, part of her, the part she hated most, felt relief. That relief made her hate herself so completely that she couldn't think straight, couldn't grieve properly. So instead, she built a prison of lies and told herself it was about money, about Joseph's career, about being practical. But the real reason she hid those babies? She couldn't face the truth that some tiny, terrible corner of her heart wasn't devastated they were gone. I was making breakfast when the left side of my body went numb. The spatula clattered to the floor. I tried to call out, but my words slurred together. Emma found me collapsed on the kitchen tile. For a moment, she just stared. This should have been her wake-up call. Call 911, get help, end the charade. Instead, she knelt beside me and thought, if paramedics come, they'll search the house. They'll ask about the babies. They'll want to see them. It'll all come out. So Emma made another choice. She checked my pulse, still strong, dragged me to my room, called an urgent care clinic and described my symptoms. They told her what to watch for, what medications I'd need. She went to 3 different pharmacies so no one would question why Joseph's wife was picking up stroke medications for an older woman nobody knew was staying there. And then she kept me alive. Barely. Just enough. Because a confused old woman with a stroke? That was even better cover than a helpful mother-in-law. I could be there, visible proof that Emma wasn't alone, but too incapacitated to notice anything was wrong. I woke up the next day with no memory of falling. Emma told me I'd had a dizzy spell and needed to rest. She gave me pills, said they were for my blood pressure. I believed her, took them. And slowly, my mind began to fragment. The pills Emma gave me were real stroke medications, blood thinners, anti-seizure drugs. She needed me alive, after all. Dead bodies require explanations. But she gave them irregularly, sometimes with food, sometimes without, sometimes twice a day, sometimes once. She knew my confusion would lead to mistakes. I'd forget I'd already taken them and double-dose myself. The side effects piled up. Tremors, nausea, disorientation. Some days I couldn't remember where I was. Other days I couldn't remember why I'd come here in the first place. Emma would find me wandering the hallway at 3 a.m. Margaret, you need to go back to bed. Where are the babies? I haven't heard them today. They're sleeping. Go back to bed. And I would, because my brain couldn't hold on to suspicion long enough to act on it. On day 34, I asked Emma why I couldn't see my grandchildren. You've been sick, Margaret. You need rest. When you're stronger. But I want to help. You are helping, just by being here. But you need to take care of yourself first. She was so gentle when she said it, so convincing, and my fractured mind accepted it as truth. But at night, when Emma thought I was sleeping, I'd hear her talking to herself in the kitchen. No, not to herself, to someone who wasn't there. I'm keeping her alive, aren't I? I'm giving her medicine. Some people would have just let her die. I'm actually being kind. She's old anyway. 10 years left, maybe. I have 50. My needs matter more. This is practical. This is survival. She was rationalizing, justifying, building a fortress of logic around decisions that had nothing to do with logic at all.
Emma wasn't a psychopath. Psychopaths don't justify. They don't feel guilt that requires explanation. Emma felt everything. She was just very, very good at reframing it. I'm protecting Joseph, protecting our future, protecting Margaret from the trauma of knowing the babies died. This is kindness. This is love. This is... She'd trail off, because even she couldn't quite finish the lie. On day 42, I had a moment of clarity. I found her in the nursery, standing between two empty cribs. The baby sounds were off. She didn't hear me approach. She was crying silently, hands pressed to her mouth. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a stretch since the babies died. Her eyes were hollow. Her skin had a gray pallor. She'd lost 15 pounds off an already thin frame.
Every Tuesday, she still drove to Greenwood Cemetery, sat between those tiny graves, talked to children who couldn't hear her. Just 9 more days. Then Daddy comes home and I'll tell him. I'll make him understand. 9 more days, and this will all be over. But she knew it wouldn't be over. It would never be over. On day 53, Joseph called. I heard Emma on the phone, her voice bright and artificial. Everything's great. Yes, your mom is such a help. The babies are thriving. Charlotte smiled today. A real smile, not gas. James is starting to grab at things. No, don't worry, we're all fine. You focus on work. We'll see you in 7 days. She hung up and immediately vomited in the kitchen sink. I watched from the doorway, my mind clear enough in that moment to understand something was very, very wrong. Emma, what's happening? She rinsed her mouth, turned to me with that false smile. Stomach bug. I'm fine. You're not fine. Nothing here is fine. Where are my grandchildren? I haven't seen them in... How long? How long have I been here? For a moment, Emma's face crumbled. Margaret, please just go back to bed. Please don't ask me questions. Please. She was begging, and something in her voice terrified me. But then the fog rolled back in, my thoughts scattered, I forgot what I'd asked. On day 55, Emma did something that even she couldn't explain later. She took my phone, scrolled through Joseph's increasingly frantic messages. Mom, are you okay? Why aren't you calling me back? Emma says you're fine, but I'm worried. And she returned the phone to me, just placed it on my nightstand while I slept. It was self-sabotage. Subconscious but deliberate. She wanted to be caught, wanted someone to stop her, but she couldn't stop herself.
I found the phone the next morning, read the messages. My hands shook as I tried to type a response, but my vision blurred. The phone slipped away.
Emma found me unconscious an hour later, the phone on the floor beside me. She picked it up, read what I'd tried to type. Joseph, help. Something wrong. Emma, lying. Babies. The message hadn't sent. I'd passed out before hitting send. Emma deleted the draft, put the phone back in her pocket, and made a decision. This is your last meal here, she told me that evening, setting dinner in front of me. I stared at the plate, fear cutting through the fog. What does that mean? It means Joseph comes home in 4 days, and when he does, this ends. All of it. So eat, Margaret. Eat and rest. Because when he walks through that door, nothing will ever be the same again. I ate, not because I trusted her, but because I was too weak to do anything else. And that night, while I slept, Emma sat in the nursery with the baby sounds turned off, and finally let herself admit the truth she'd been running from.
She whispered it to the empty room. I didn't want to be a mother. I never did. I did it because Joseph wanted it, because everyone expected it, because my mother said I couldn't do it. But I didn't want them. And when they died, God forgive me, I was relieved. She sobbed then, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. What kind of monster am I? What kind of person feels relief when her babies die? The answer, of course, was a person who never should have been forced into motherhood in the first place. A person struggling with untreated postpartum depression. A person so broken by her own childhood that she couldn't recognize love when it was supposed to arrive.
But Emma didn't have that answer. She just had guilt and shame and a lie so big it had consumed everything. One day before Joseph's return, I woke up with the clearest head I'd had in weeks. Something about my medication timing had finally aligned correctly. The fog lifted. I got out of bed, still weak, still shaky, but aware. I walked through the house, really seeing it for the first time in nearly a month. No baby bottles, no diapers, no signs of infant life anywhere. I climbed the stairs, each step an effort, reached the nursery door. It was unlocked. I pushed it open. Empty. Completely empty. Not even the cribs remained. Just marks on the carpet where furniture had been. A faint chemical smell lingering in the air.
My heart stopped. Not slowed, stopped. Then restarted with a painful lurch. I turned and nearly collided with Emma. She stood in the hallway, still in her bathrobe, hair unbrushed, eyes red-rimmed. We stared at each other. They were babies! Your children! How could money possibly— It wasn't about the money! She screamed it, and the mask finally shattered completely. It was never about the money. That was just the excuse I told myself because the real reason was so much worse.
Emma sank to the floor in that empty nursery. I stayed in the doorway, my legs unable to carry me any closer. I didn't love them, she whispered. I looked at them, and I felt nothing. No overwhelming maternal instinct, no fierce need to protect. Just obligation and terror that someone would notice, that you would notice. Emma, my mother said I was too selfish for children, and she was right. When they were born, I looked at them and thought, my life is over. Everything I am, everything I wanted to be is gone. Not, look at these miracles. Not, I would die for them. Just
resentment. Tears streamed down her face. I tried. God, I tried to fake it. Tried to force the feelings. Kept you away because I was terrified you'd look in my eyes when I held them and see the truth, that I was empty, broken, that I was exactly the failure my mother always said I'd be. You were sick, I said, finding my voice. Postpartum depression. It's not your fault. And when they died, she continued as if I hadn't spoken, when I found them cold in their cribs, you want to know what my first feeling was? Not devastation, not horror, relief. I felt relief. For 3 full seconds before the guilt crushed me, I thought, I'm free.
She looked up at me then, her face destroyed by anguish. What kind of monster feels relief when her babies die? I wanted to tell her she wasn't a monster, that postpartum depression warps everything, that not bonding with your children doesn't make you evil, that she needed help, not judgment. But before I could speak, she continued. I hid them because I couldn't face Joseph, couldn't face telling him that his children died while I was caring for them alone, couldn't face him seeing in my eyes that part of me was relieved. So I told myself it was about money, about protecting his career, about being practical, but it was really about protecting myself from him knowing the truth. And me? I asked quietly. Why keep me here?
What are you going to tell him? Emma stood up slowly, wiping her face. The truth. All of it. He'll leave me. I'll deserve it. Maybe I'll end up in prison for hiding the deaths. I don't know. I don't care anymore. I'm so tired, Margaret. I'm so tired of lying. We stood in that empty nursery, 2 women who'd spent 60 days in the same house, but in completely different realities. The babies, I said carefully. If I'd been able to help from the start, if you'd let me in.
They might not have died, Emma finished. Or maybe they would have anyway. SIDS doesn't care if you love your children or not. But if you'd been there, if I'd accepted help, maybe I would have gotten treatment. Maybe I wouldn't have hidden them. Maybe something could have been different. Maybe, I agreed. We stood in silence. Then Emma asked, almost childlike, "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. Really thought. I hate what you did. I hate that my grandchildren are in the ground and I never got to hold them. I hate that you kept me prisoner in my own mind. But do I hate you? I don't know, Emma. I think you hate yourself enough for both of us.
The next day, I was in my room packing when I heard it. A car in the driveway. My heart stopped. Emma? Mom? I caught an early flight. Joseph's voice. My son. Home 12 hours early. I heard Emma's footsteps racing down the stairs, heard the front door open, heard Joseph's confused greeting. Babe? Why are there boxes everywhere? Where's Mom? Where are the kids? I forced myself up, walked slowly to the landing, looked down. Emma stood frozen in the entryway. Joseph, tanned from Spanish sun and smiling with anticipation, had his arms outstretched for a hug that she couldn't give. His smile faded as he took her in, the weight loss, the hollow eyes, the absolute devastation in her face. Emma? What's wrong? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. He looked past her, saw me on the stairs. Mom! Jesus, you look... What happened? Are you okay? I started down the stairs, gripping the railing, each step feeling like a mile. Joseph, Emma whispered. Sit down. I don't want to sit down. What the hell is going on? Where are Charlotte and James? Emma's eyes met mine. In them, I saw a question. Will you tell him, or will you let me? I reached the bottom of the stairs, stood beside my daughter-in-law. This woman who'd buried her babies in secret, who'd kept me prisoner with medications and lies, who'd collapsed under the weight of motherhood she never wanted. This woman who was broken, not evil, broken. Joseph looked between us, panic rising in his voice. Someone tell me what's happening. Mom, why are you saying anything? Emma, where are my children? Emma's composure finally cracked completely. She sank to her knees right there in the entryway. Joseph, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The babies are buried in Greenwood Cemetery. Plot 447. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever heard. Joseph's face went through so many emotions I couldn't track them all. Confusion, disbelief, horror, rage, grief, all in the space of 3 seconds.
What? The word came out as a whisper. They died, Emma said from the floor. Day 23. Both of them. SIDS. In their sleep. Peaceful. They didn't suffer. Day 23? Joseph's voice was hollow. That was 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago? 37 days, Emma said. I'm so sorry. You've been lying to me for 37 days? His voice rose to a shout. I've been calling you, asking about them, asking to video chat with them, and they were dead.
I couldn't tell you over the phone. I couldn't. So you just let me keep working? Let me keep talking about them like they were alive? Let me plan coming home to meet them? He turned to me. Mom, did you know? I shook my head. Not until yesterday. I had a stroke. Joseph, day 30, I've been confused. She was giving me medication, but I couldn't think straight enough to... A stroke? He looked at Emma with absolute horror. My mother had a stroke and you didn't call me? I kept her alive, Emma said weakly. I gave her medicine. You kept her alive? Like that's something to be proud of? My children are dead. My mother nearly died. And you hid all of it so I'd keep working? So we'd keep the money?
It wasn't about the money, Emma whispered. Then what was it about? She looked up at him, tears streaming. I didn't love them. I tried. God, Joseph, I tried so hard. But I looked at them and felt nothing. And when they died, part of me was relieved. And I couldn't face you knowing that. I couldn't face you seeing what a monster I am. The words hung in the air like poison. Joseph stepped back away from her, like she'd become something toxic. You didn't love our children? I wanted to. I tried to force it. But I was drowning, Joseph. Postpartum depression, attachment issues, I don't know. I needed help, but I couldn't ask because asking meant admitting I was failing. And my mother always said I'd fail. So I pushed everyone away and pretended I was fine, and then they died, and I...
Stop. Joseph held up his hand. Just stop talking. He looked at me. Mom, get your things. You're coming home with me. We're leaving. Joseph, Emma started. I said stop. His voice was ice. I don't want to hear another word from you. Not one word. My children are buried somewhere, and I didn't even know. I didn't get to hold them, didn't get to say goodbye, didn't get to bury them, because you were too busy pretending they were alive. He walked to the stairs, helped me up them. We went to my room and he started throwing my things into my suitcase with shaking hands. Joseph, I said gently, she's sick. She needs help, professional help. I don't care what she needs. She kept my dead children from me. She let you have a stroke and hid it. She's been lying for over a month. I don't care if she's sick. I don't care if she's broken. I care that my babies are in the ground and I never got to meet them.
We packed in silence. Then we went back downstairs. Emma was still on the floor in the entryway, collapsed in on herself. Joseph stepped over her, literally stepped over her like she was debris, opened the front door. Then Emma spoke, soft but clear. I know you'll never forgive me, but Joseph, please, please let me tell you one thing before you go. He paused, didn't turn around. The day they died,
I stayed with them for 3 hours before I called Marcus. And during those 3 hours, I held them, both of them. And for the first time since they were born, I felt something. Not relief, not obligation, love. Real, overwhelming, devastating love. It came too late, but it came. And I need you to know that in the end, I loved them. I loved our children. Joseph stood frozen in the doorway. I watched his shoulders shake. Then he said, without turning, "But they'll never know that. Will they?" He walked out. I followed. Emma stayed on the floor. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. Emma stood in the doorway now, a ghost of a woman, watching us leave. "What happens to her?" I asked quietly. "I don't know," Joseph said. "And right now, I don't care." He walked out. I followed. Emma stayed on the floor. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. Emma stood in the doorway now, a ghost of a woman, watching us leave. "What happens to her?" I asked quietly. "I don't know," Joseph said. "And right now, I don't care." We drove in silence, but something felt wrong. We weren't heading toward my house or Joseph's father's place. We were going somewhere else entirely.
20 minutes later, Joseph pulled into a driveway I'd never seen before, a blue house with white shutters, toys scattered in the yard, a tricycle, a slide, sandbox toys. My heart stopped. "Joseph, whose house is this?" He turned off the engine. "Mine." "What?" The front door opened. A woman stepped out. Late 20s, dark curly hair, beautiful. Behind her, 2 small children, a boy about 4, a girl maybe 2. The boy saw Joseph's car and ran. "Daddy, Daddy's home." I couldn't breathe. "Joseph, what is this?" He finally looked at me, guilt and defiance mixing in his eyes. "Mom, I want you to meet Rebecca. And those are my children, Marcus and Lily, your real grandchildren." The world tilted sideways. "You have other children? Does Emma know?" "No, and she never will." I watched him get out, catch his son in his arms, swing him around. The joy on his face, real, unforced, was something I'd never seen when he talked about Emma's twins. Rebecca approached with the little girl on her hip. She smiled nervously at me. "You must be Margaret. Joseph's told us so much about you." I got out slowly, my stroke-weakened legs trembling. "How long has this been going on?"
6 years, Joseph said calmly. "I met Rebecca before Emma, before the marriage. Emma and I had an arrangement. She wanted stability and to prove her mother wrong about marriage. I needed to be married to access my father's trust fund. It was supposed to be temporary." "Temporary?" I repeated numbly. "Then Emma got pregnant, stopped her birth control without telling me, tried to trap me." He kissed Lily's forehead. "But these are my real children, the ones I chose, the ones I actually wanted." Rebecca touched his arm gently. "Let's go inside. Your mother needs to sit down." Inside, the house was warm, lived in, photos everywhere. Joseph with Rebecca and the children. Birthdays, holidays, Christmas mornings, a whole life I knew nothing about. While Rebecca put the children to bed, Joseph made tea. We sat in the kitchen and I stared at my son like he was a stranger. "Emma spent 60 days drowning," I said quietly. 60 days hiding dead babies. And you're telling me your marriage was fake from the start?
She knew what she was getting into. Did she? Or did she tell herself you'd learn to love her, that the babies would change everything? Joseph's silence was answer enough. Then Rebecca returned and sat beside him. "Margaret, there's something else you need to know." My stomach dropped. "What?" She glanced at Joseph, who nodded. "Marcus, Emma's brother, the one who helped her bury the twins. What about him?" "He's my half-brother, same father, different mothers. That's how Joseph and I met, through Marcus 6 years ago." The room spun. "Marcus, Emma's brother, has been keeping your secret?" "Yes," Joseph said,
And when Emma called him on day 23 about the babies dying, Marcus called me first, before he helped her. The words hit me like a physical blow. You knew! You knew the twins were dead and you didn't come home? I stayed in Spain because I thought,
You thought what? My voice rose. That if you let her suffer alone, she'd break? She'd give you a clean divorce? His face hardened. Yes. You let her bury them in secret. Let her spiral into madness. Let me nearly die from a stroke in that house while you knew everything? I didn't know she'd hide it for over a month. I didn't know she'd keep you as some kind of witness to a lie. But you knew the babies were dead? I stood up shaking. And you did nothing? You're worse than she is, Joseph. At least Emma was drowning. You were making calculated choices. Rebecca spoke softly. It's not that simple, Margaret. It is that simple. I turned on her. 2 babies died, and both of you, I gestured between Joseph and the absent Emma, both of you let them be buried in secret while you played your sick games. Little Marcus appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes. Grandma? Why are you yelling? The words stopped me cold. Grandma. This child, this living, breathing child was calling me Grandma, while somewhere in Greenwood Cemetery, 2 others I'd never hold were buried without even a proper funeral?
Rebecca took Marcus back to bed. Joseph and I sat in terrible silence. Emma gave you exactly what you needed, I said finally. A reason to justify everything. Her hiding the babies, her lies. Now you look like the victim, the betrayed husband. No one will question why you're leaving her. No one will dig deeper and find Rebecca and the children. Joseph's face was unreadable. That is why you came home early. The realization hit me like ice water. Marcus told you Emma was breaking, that she'd confessed to me. You knew she was about to crack, so you rushed home to control the narrative, to play the devastated father before she could tell anyone the full truth. She doesn't know the full truth. But I do now. And what am I supposed to do with this, Joseph? Smile and play grandma to these children while knowing you let your other children be buried in secret? While knowing Emma, broken, sick Emma, is alone in that house thinking she's the only monster? Joseph stood too. You'll do what's best for the family, the real family. Mom, look around. Look at this house, these children, Rebecca. This is what's real, what's good. Emma was a mistake, a transaction that went wrong. She knew what she was signing up for. She signed up for a loveless marriage, I said, not for a dead secret family. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Richardson, this is Detective Sarah Chen. Your daughter-in-law, Emma Carter Richardson, contacted us this evening regarding the deaths of Charlotte and James Richardson on October 23rd. The case is now under investigation. We'll need to speak with you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at the station. Please don't leave town. I showed Joseph the text. Watch the color drain from his face. She turned herself in, I whispered.
Joseph grabbed the phone, read it again. This ruins everything. If they investigate, they'll find Marcus's involvement. They'll start looking into my finances. They'll find Rebecca, the children, everything. Rebecca appeared in the doorway, her face pale. Joseph, what do we do? And suddenly I understood. Emma's confession wasn't just about the twins. She was taking everyone down with her. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Emma. Margaret, I told them everything. About the babies, about my brother Marcus, about Joseph knowing, about you, about all of it. I'm done lying. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Tomorrow, the truth comes out. All of it. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle, but someone had to stop the lies. Emma. Joseph read over my shoulder. His face went from shock to rage to something close to panic. She's bluffing, he said. She has no proof I knew. Marcus won't corroborate. It's her word against ours. But I looked at my son, this stranger with his secret family and his calculated cruelties, and I realized something. Emma wasn't the only monster in this story. Maybe she never had been. I picked up my phone and started typing a response. Mom! Joseph's voice was sharp. What are you doing? What I should have done 60 days ago, I said, telling the truth. Rebecca grabbed Joseph's arm. We need to leave tonight. Take the kids and just... No one's leaving, I said firmly. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., we're all going to that police station. And we're all going to tell the truth. Every ugly piece of it. Joseph stared at me. You'd destroy your own grandchildren's lives? Marcus and Lily are... are better off knowing their father's capacity for truth than growing up in another house of lies. I hit send on my response to Emma. I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll tell them everything I know. It's time for all of us to stop hiding. Joseph sank into a chair, head in his hands. Rebecca stood frozen. And somewhere across town, Emma was probably sitting in an empty house, having just burned down everything and everyone around her. But maybe, I thought, maybe that's what it takes. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to start over with something real. My phone buzzed one last time. Emma's reply. Thank you. I know this costs you, but Margaret, ask Joseph about the life insurance policy on the twins. Ask him when he took it out. Then decide if I'm really the only monster here. I looked at my son. Joseph, is there a life insurance policy on Charlotte and James? The silence that followed told me everything.